Amel Tresnjic, thank you very much for your time. You created an independent film, 2012, Crossing Over, A New Beginning. Can you please explain to me what inspired you to make this film?
I guess now when I think about it, there's probably various reasons to what inspired me to make the film. Being a filmmaker, I tend to research a lot of topics on all kinds of issues, that are currently around in the world. And I like to dig a little bit further than what we tend to be told by the mainstream media, the news reports and everything else, because it's a condensed version of events. And they seem to be very controlled and, pointing into one direction rather than having different perspectives about it. So I tend to always dig a little bit deeper to find out things and find the truth in things. And as a result of that, a lot of people tend to ask me questions, Amel, what's going on here, what's going on here? And especially my little cousins, because they came up to me one day and said, Amel, what's happening with December 2012? Are we all going to die? And I asked myself the question, where does that come from? And they say, well, I've seen this documentary, and then I saw it on the news, and then I saw Britney Spears making a song about it. And there was some genuine concern about this particular event. So I went on a mission to research more and find out what's going on and what's the truth in that. And very quickly I realized that obviously there was no end of the world, but there seems to be an agenda that's promoting negativity as well as fear into the public eye. And that of course manifests into ways of, people being afraid, to a point where people have been buying bunkers, people are buying resources, food and water and all kinds of stuff to survive all kinds of scenarios. I was in the middle of doing the spiritual awakening film, which is all about positivity, and everyone that I spoke to that talk about this time that we are in, they talk about great changes, great, beautiful, positive changes to be happening as a result of coming out of a certain age. And I decided in the process to embed these extra questions about 2012 and create another film out of it, because I wanted to show a positive spiritual perspective on the event, while at the same time uplift, inspire and empower every individual around the world to contribute in making the world a better place. And I guess the message of the film is all about choosing love, as well as starting with the self, the person in the mirror. So that's one of the reasons that inspired me to make the film.
And from the very first of the seed idea, how long did it take you to produce it completely?
As both films have been independently funded as well as produced on my own, I sometimes have to prioritize paid work, which I do in my profession and my little business, in order to obviously keep going, while at the same time raise the funds for the films that I really want to do. And as a result of that, obviously the production gets delayed, and it takes me a little longer to get certain things done and finished. I would love to be able to make these films, full time, all the time, but unfortunately I have to raise those funds first before I can get there. Because of that delay, I had to obviously put the film on hold on many occasions. It's been in production for a whole year, and out of that year, a combined total of 4 to 5 months to get the film to the standard that it is, which obviously covers all the research, the interviews, the filming, the editing, the visual effects and so on. So around 4 to 5 months to get it all produced and finished and published.
And as I understand it, all the people, besides international people that you're referring to, all the people local, homegrown in Melbourne.
Everyone is here from Melbourne, yes. As much as I would have loved to interview certain international people, the budget sort of limits one to work with what's available locally, and thankfully Melbourne is full of great teachers such as yourself who I've come across in my research and decided to interview. It's been absolutely enlightening to look at all the information available, as well as combining it together into the film.
So you've got a second movie I noticed, Spiritual Awakening,
yes,
Rise of the Kundalini, and please explain a little bit about that movie.
Spiritual Awakening, Rise of the Kundalini, which is my next film and I'm currently in the production of it, is about a journey of self-realization in where ordinary people have experienced a very rare phenomenon called the rise of the Kundalini. It is described as a sacred experience in where an individual comes into contact with a transcendent reality, an encounter or union with the divine. In simpler terms, an individual realizes that they are a lot more than the body and the mind. And me being curious in nature and always asking the bigger question, what is the purpose of life? This topic really intrigued me, and I wanted to make a film about it that shares these amazing positive transformations as a result of these amazing spiritual experiences. The inspiration for Spiritual Awakening, Rise of the Kundalini is a very interesting one. I think greater powers have been at work on this one as well. I was at a stage in my life where I was sort of wondering, is this what life is all about? You know, everything we've sort of been told and how one should live their life. I sort of wondered, is there more? There has to be more. Something is not right here. And at that stage I came across a complete stranger in my life who decided to share his Kundalini experience, which is all about realizing that there is more and greater things out there, that we are bigger than the body. We are more than the body. We are not the body. And when he shared his experience, I just sat down with, I was paying close attention, so interested, so excited, and then and there I decided I wanted to make a film about it. And I said to him, guess what? I'm a filmmaker, and I would love to make a film about this. And he says to me, oh, really? And that's pretty much where it all started from there.
So, getting back to 2012, how many people have hit it on YouTube?
The view count is a surprise to me on a daily basis. In the first 3 weeks, the film was seen by 500,000 people, and now it's reached 730,000. It's absolutely amazing to me because there is no ads or there is no mainstream support whatsoever. It's simply me creating a film, putting it online, and as a result of that, it spreads on its own, all by the power of the people, by simply sharing the link.
And the feedback?
The feedback has been absolutely incredible because I've received around thousands of emails ever since I put it up, and I'm still slowly trying to catch up on responding to each and every single one of them. I don't think people realize that it's just me on the other end who created this production entirely on his own. But I'm slowly catching up, and I will respond to all the emails in due time. I've received thank you letters, people willing to contribute in terms of music, in terms of graphic design, in terms of wanting to host screenings worldwide so they can share it with their wider communities. People wanting to translate it, and that's what's currently happening. There's around 18 plus languages that the film is getting translated into. And that's simply by complete strangers I've never met in my life who just saw my film, who enjoyed the message of the film and just wanted to contribute by helping in any possible way. What I see as a great achievement is not, that the film has been listed as #1 documentary, has received numerous 5-star reviews and awards and high ratings. To me, the most amazing achievement is that the film has been screened at the Washington, D.C. correctional facility, as well as added to their library in order to inspire positive change in prisoners, while at the same time in a little children's clinic in Hawaii, the film has been also added to the video library to help youth overcome mental and physical illnesses. To me, that's one of the greatest rewards, to know that something that I've crafted and created with the intention to help others is in fact helping others, and to know that is absolutely inspiring to me. So
what's your production time till the next film is out?
I'm hoping for maybe around 2 to 3 months. I'd like to take my time with this one because the last one was a little bit rushed because of December 21st.
You had a used by date.
There was a date, there was a cut-off time, and because I've produced everything on my own, it takes a long time to get things done. But I'm aiming for maybe 2 or 3 months to get it all nicely polished and finished. Yes.
A lot of hard work yet then.
A lot of hard work, yes.
So, which school did you go to get into filmmaking?
I studied at Deakin University here in Melbourne, and I did a double degree in film and television as well as 3D animation. And that's sort of my starting and fundamentals of getting into the film world. But a lot of the additional stuff is sort of more of a self-education, because I'm always curious to learn new things, you know, not just how to be a director, but how to use a camera, how to use lights, how to do the editing, how to do visual effects. And combining all these things together gives you a much greater perspective on the things that you can do with film.
And am I noticing, is there going to be more a feminine mood in this Kundalini movement?
Yes, absolutely. Some of the feedback that I got on YouTube as well as email was people wondering why there were no women speakers in the film. And it's a very simple answer. I had 3 women scheduled to be interviewed, and somehow it wasn't meant to happen. All 3 pulled out last minute. And because the film has been produced on my own, and there was a deadline to make sure the editing and everything else gets done on time before December 21st, there wasn't enough time to find more suitable speakers for the film. So I decided to just go with what I have and compensate by using, for instance, a female voiceover in the film as well as female montage scenery in there. As now I have more time for the next film, The Spiritual Awakening Rise of the Kundalini, I'm in the process, of course, of interviewing many women so they can share their perspective on these amazing experiences that they had.
So, you are actually an independent filmmaker. You supplied the money, you did the direction, production, camera, etc., editing, marketing.
Pretty much everything. Everything from top to bottom. With both films, the 2012 as well as the spiritual one, it's entirely done by one person, except the music. There was a great musician who did the music.
So, do you find it difficult to put on different hats? You know, do you encourage other people to maybe try it?
To help out, or?
No, to be a filmmaker.
Oh, definitely,
As
definitely.
the one-man crew.
I tend to encourage everyone to be anything that they can possibly imagine to be, because I think anyone can be anything that they would like to be, you know. And when you look at it from a film perspective, it's very difficult to assemble, let's say, large crews and everyone to be available at, for instance, the same time to get a project up and running and finished, while at the same time everyone that has an equal amount of passion and effort that they want to contribute into it. I found that a bit of a difficulty when it comes down to doing things, as well as the time management, because, you know, it is an independent film. There is no budget, there is no Hollywood support or mainstream. It's simply creating something from nothing.
No cosmetics.
No cosmetics. Maybe some visual effects, but no cosmetics. No wardrobe, no nothing. It's just one person with a camera and the lights and sound, everything set up prior to go. And I've realized one of the most successful ways of getting a project started and finished is to do it yourself. You know, but in order to do it yourself, you got to be able to know how to do all of these things as well.
So we've talked about the positive side of the movie. You must have had some detractors.
There's been negative comments, and I don't mind negative feedback. I love negative, positive feedback. Whatever comes my way, I'll take it on board, and I can learn something from that. But mainly, as much as it's a surprise to me, as well as a lot of other people on YouTube, because they think I moderate, for instance, the comments to be only positive. It's not. They all there that get sent out there. The only ones that get removed are the ones who use really bad and offensive language. If people want to make an argument, by all means they can do so, but there are certain rules, you know, and those are the ones that get removed. But really, the negative side of the comments have been from people who say something like that, oh, bad luck, the world didn't end. Usually people who haven't even watched the film and they see maybe 2012 in the title and they will automatically put a negative comment there. So I respond to them saying, I suggest...
It's called a knee-jerk reaction.
Yes, and I think there's an internet term for that, which is trolling, I believe. So some people sit there, they have the time and they just troll and send negative comments on things that they haven't even seen. So that's one of the side of the negative stuff. And obviously the female, about not having females in the film. That's maybe one part that people would suggest to have more of in the future.
In the film, not only is there motivation, your skill sets, meeting people, making the appropriate interviews. Although you were trying to control the production, do you feel that there was actually some perhaps other involvement that was doing organisation beyond your ability?
I think so, definitely, like almost like a greater power or something guiding one. I have to say yes to that, because a lot of the times I would do certain things, and it's quite amazing when I just look back at the whole journey of the production of it. I would, for instance, sit down and I will work on a particular chapter, and I would get to a point where I sit down and I'm like, ooh, I need something in there. I don't know exactly what it is, but I need something from a possibly celebrity perspective to sort of validate some of the claims that have been made in the film. And in that particular instance, you know, someone on Facebook decides to share this link with me from George Carlin or Bill Hicks. And I click on a link and I watch it, and I'm like, whoa, that's exactly 100% what I needed to go in there. So a lot of support systems from, I guess, many people, friends, whether they're conscious about it or unconscious about it, there's been a lot of influence and guidance that I would say that has helped with the production of the film to make it what it is today.
Well, I'm one of these people that believe in God's direction, but some people would say universal energy and also many things. However, just like pieces of puzzle locked all together, if you don't have a budget, where with more money you can make things happen. When you haven't got the money, you're running out of time.
Absolutely.
And still it was put together perfectly, for want of a better word. So what I'm essentially saying is, not only do you have to be a director and have some sort of directional control, you've also got to be lucid enough to realise, oh, hold on a second, I need something else. Let go of control. And what I'm essentially getting at is that those other persons are being used as instruments to inform you.
I think so. That makes perfect sense to me. Because some stuff you get to a point where, like, okay, maybe one time is a coincidence, twice is a coincidence, 3 times, 4 times, 5 times, then you start sort of wondering, and you get to a point where you don't think it's any more coincidence. There are some greater powers at work that help and support one when things need to be done.
And this might sound, I hope it's not to disturb. I want to bring into light a little bit about your background. You come from an Islamic background, and this must be quite out of the box.
To the spiritual perspective discussed. Yes, I'm definitely from an Islamic background, but I've never sort of identified with the religion or any other religion. I sort of always wanted to go on a mission to find out for myself. And that's maybe one thing that sort of attracted me about spirituality, is because it's the journey of oneself rather than, you know, you're sort of born into this world and you look around what to do and someone wants to give you this book, read this book, here's the answer to life, here it is, grab this one. You're like, which one is right? Well, you know, I think the right answer is within. So the deeper you look within, the clearer things are going to become. Otherwise, everything else external is based on someone else's perception and belief systems and truth. I think the best truth one can look for is the truth within.
And this is a curvy question. Have any of our mainstream news people come and knocked on your door and sent you an email?
No, nobody from the mainstream news or anything whatsoever, no.
You spread all this love and all this fantastic wonder, and not one representative, not one journalist.
No one came my way to maybe contribute or offer some sort of help. No one, because it sort of makes one realize maybe they're not interested in love, maybe they're interested in something else. And I think that's what the film discusses quite a lot as well, this aspect of fear in the media and having a particular controlled message that the public always get to see. 2012 Crossing Over, A New Beginning covers many topics, and they're all sort of topics that I've encountered in my life that sort of interested me. And I wanted to sort of share that knowledge with everyone else, because a lot of the stuff that we've been told through our history, when we investigate and when we do our own research, for those who can make time for that in the days that we live in, you will realize that it's not necessarily the way we've been told. There's a lot of lies and there's a lot of contradiction. And some people call this conspiracy, but sometimes the stuff we've been told about our history is more of a conspiracy than the conspiracy itself. So, through learning about all these different topics, I wanted to embed them all into the 2012 film, which covers various things. It's about the Illuminati, it's about 2012, it's about the fear agenda in the media, it's about consciousness, it's about who we are, it's about purpose of life. It's got a lot of things in there which are not specifically about 2012. I think the film sort of elevates it to the next level about, for instance, the yugas and the cycles that we live in and the effects the planets have on us. I mean, those things are always been suppressed by mainstream information, but there is a lot of stuff that we need to take into consideration of how we affect one another as well as the planet that's around us, based on the choices that we make. With 2012, there's a lot of information that's sort of just scratching the surface, and it's sort of designed that way to inspire people to do their own research, to go a little bit deeper into what is meant about yugas, what is meant about secret societies, what is meant by consciousness, what is meant by all these terms, to find out for themselves, because I think that's important. Because so much of our understanding of the world and oneself is based on someone else's opinion. And we sort of, I guess, get that taught in university. It's all about referencing someone else, reference. I think it's important to start looking at the truth within to find the answers, because I think that's what's important.
You mentioned something just before. One is you have a small business that allows you to bring the bread and butter on
the funds in, yes,
so to speak. At that point, you've got a boss. And so therefore you have to listen and cooperate to get him what he wants. He's paying you.
Absolutely.
Well, my point is then, if you do an independent film,
you have no boss.
The prostitution side of it, where the actual payment is there, that's gone. So it has to be purer.
Absolutely, and that's where the intention comes in, because the whole film is not done for money whatsoever. It was a second inspiration to the film is, when I look around the world, I tend to do a lot of research about lots of topics, from religion to law to history. And you sort of realize when we look at the world today that there seems to be one control factor that's controlling and creating the world for what it is today, and everyone else is a reflection of it. We don't promote love, for instance, on television. There's a lot of, it's pretty much the opposite. We promote fear and negativity. Like when you turn on the news today, you would think that the world is going mad. Maybe it is, but maybe it's not as bad. But it's a selective content that gets put together. So from doing all the research, I sort of realized that it's important to have a more positive message in the world, because people need some. I think everyone on an individual basis needs someone to inspire them on a daily basis, as well as to empower them, to make them realize how much power they actually have to make better choices in their life, and how that power affects everyone else around them, whether it's in a closer circle of their friends or family or a workplace. If they realize how much they affect these people around, and if everyone does the same, and we focus on good intentions, doing something positive, I think that has the potential to make the world a much more better place than what it is at this stage. And I think that's one of the reasons that that inspired me to do the film as well, to contribute, to make a contribution to society, to say, look, maybe we should rethink our way of doing things and knowing the information that we've been told, and look for better ways to, as a society, come together rather than divide, because all that creates is wars.
So we can see something very important. If you don't like the system that you're in, probably switch off the television. It's probably an important thing. Or at least be highly selective when you turn it on, and perhaps use the internet to look at movies or information that's well focused on humanity.
Absolutely, because the 2012 film proves, I think, a really good point when it comes down to the media. Because the media has painted this image that the world will end, and they kept reinforcing this idea that the Mayans have predicted the end of the world, the Mayans have predicted the end of the world, and there's various snippets that I use in my film as well, and a lot more that I couldn't fit in there, where they talk about the world is going to end, the world is going to end. And obviously the world didn't end, and obviously the Mayans didn't even mention any of that. It was their interpretation. So the question is, why are they interpreting it that way, and why are they portraying these fearful images of the end of the world? I always say to people, grab one aspect of your life, whether it's education, whether it's history, whether it's TV, whether it's movies, and dig a little, whether it's banks, the money system, the government structures, and dig a little bit further. You will find that there's a small group of people controlling all of the above. And when you dig a bit more further, they seem to have an agenda. They seem to have an agenda to make sure we don't know much about ourselves, we don't know much about the history, we are kept too busy to be able to look up to see if we have full moon or not. For what means? That's a bigger question. I guess to feed their own agendas, which are control. Because when someone doesn't have the truth about themselves or about their environment or where they come from, where they're going, or the nature of life and all these questions we're wondering about, one doesn't know. And someone else can come in their path and say, well, I have the answer. Follow me. I guess it's a control thing that they're trying to get out there.
Absolutely, without a doubt. And there's more and more people, so it's a harder thing to control. But the best way is to keep everyone impoverished.
No, that's absolutely right. And there was a time in my life I sort of used to tend to look at the people and sort of almost put a blame on them. Why make bad choices? Why, create your own suffering? And to one extent, that's quite true. But also I realized that people are, and what people become in their life as they grow up from a child onwards, they're a product of their environment. So if they have a happy family, they're allowed to thrive. But if the family is fighting and doing all kinds of stuff, then you limit the growth of that child in terms of understanding love or other values that one requires in this world. So the way I see it on a larger scale, for instance, the whole world is the environment of the human beings living in it. And they're a product of their leaders, of their role models, of what we look up to, of what we think we should follow and do. So if the people that are currently the leaders, the true leaders in power, if their agenda is what it has been in the past, then obviously we can't thrive from that. So we need to learn who they are. I think that's the first step. We've got to find out who is making the real decisions with our lives and how much that affect us on a microcosm, because our whole life is structured on go to school, get a career, get a job, buy a car, get a house, then try to get a bigger house, get a bigger car, get more cars, get more stuff. And me growing up looking at the world of what it's supposed to be, I've never sort of resonated with that. I'm like, maybe this shouldn't be the human journey. Maybe it should be a little bit different, because clearly this is benefiting corporations, not the individual, or for the greater good of mankind. Once we have true role models and leaders in the right positions who have a intention of empowering people with truth, inspiration, hope, and actually doing all the things that they promised before election, then the world is able to reflect on that. But the problem at the moment, they all seem to be supporting the corporate chain of companies that all benefit from that. When we look at life as it is right now, everything's getting harder. People are working longer hours, prices are rising, everyone is getting more and more into try to make ends meet. And it's clearly, it doesn't look like it's going to get any better. It's just going to get worse and worse and worse, which means we're going to have less and less time for ourselves as well as our family, which is quite important to bring up the future generations in the right state of mind. So we're sort of breeding slavery, which most people don't even see, because they think this is the way of life. You gotta work, gotta work, gotta work, gotta work, and before you know it, your life is over, and your whole life you've been working. Do we need to work? Obviously, yes we do, but what if we work for a contribution of everyone else to progress the human journey, rather than corporations making more money with products?
I say the corporations are the faceless monsters, and in my opinion, every time they refer to any sort of big industrialist, capitalist boss, corporate guy, I want the guy examined to see if he's a psychopath.
Absolutely.
That's how I feel about it. And one of the things that I've noticed recently, Amel, is that a speeding fine is the same for a poverty man as a millionaire. But that poverty man may be going further into poverty, and the millionaire just goes, I just pay that because I'm making so much profit here and here and here, and I can afford it. If I'm a millionaire and I lose 12 points off my license, I can hire a driver. Let him lose his points while he drives me around. But for the poverty person, they can't even get on a bus or a taxi. So that's where the discrepancy is in real terms. It's the natural resources are not being spread evenly.
When you look at, for instance, of all the solutions that have surfaced the world, when it comes down to free energy, for instance, I mean, anyone can look up Nikola Tesla and find out that, you know, over 100 years ago, he figured out a way to have free, you know, unlimited energy, wireless. And today we still have electricity poles and a meter and people being charged and the environment being destroyed as a result of all these power stations to produce that electricity. And then when you look at that, it's not the first person in the history that's been sort of suppressed and shut down. Why can't we use the technologies that we've, I wouldn't say invented, maybe discovered, you know, because there are so many resources around that we don't fully understand. Where does all the energy come from? Is it just the food that we eat, or is there a lot more? And just looking at that, if there's a suppression, and you look a little bit further, which the movie Thrive discusses quite a lot, is the suppression of cures for diseases. And then you start wondering, why would anyone want to suppress a cure for a disease? And then you turn around and you look at the pharmaceutical companies. They would be out of business. And it gets a little bit really sad when you think about that humans would want other humans to suffer so they can gain more out of it.
The interesting thing about pharmaceuticals, just by the way, if a company, one of the major companies, say they make a kilo of aspirin in their one factory, when they sell that kilo, it may have cost them $5,000 to make. When they sell it $150,000 to a company in their own business. And that happens, and then that company distributes that kilo of aspirin into X amount of capsules. So they're actually drug dealers. Pharmaceutical is a nice name. But the point is, though, that some of the things that they're making illegal are really, really good cure-alls for human beings. So they're not only being nasty, inhumane, they're actually trying to belittle the cures, as in, don't listen to that, that's nanny talk, or hippies are into that or something. They're always name calling. As long as their profits go up, they don't care.
And that's the sad thing about it. And because I think the problem is people are not aware of that, of what's really going on in the background of things behind the scenes. And the more one researches and finds out for themselves, then they come to the same realization that there is an agenda, a much larger agenda, to control human beings to an extent where, you know, some of the science fiction movies explain really well of what the future might be like if we continue to be ignorant and not looking at things the way we should be. Because I guess evil or bad things thrive in a place of darkness, and becoming informed about it, you sort of shine light on it. And when you know what's going on, then you can make better choices.
So you're an agent of change, for want of a term, but not part of any group.
Absolutely, yeah. I'm very, pretty much I'm definitely an activist, because I'd like to see the world better.
More
I think.
hugs.
Sorry?
More hugs.
More hugs, absolutely. More hugs, more love. And if we value those things more and we focus on those things more, rather than, let's say if we do a job, focusing more on love rather than the payment or the reward out of it, can make a huge difference in how much effort you put into something and you craft something out of it. I'm definitely an agent for change, because the world doesn't need to be this way. That's one thing I've realized. And if everyone realizes that, then we all at a starting point to see and look at different options and how we can make it better. It's not something one individual can do, but every individual making that same decision and choice and outlook on the world can contribute. No matter how small the deed is, they can contribute. By just putting a smile on someone's face, that can change someone's entire day or a week. You know, and if we can do that on a daily basis, just like we brush our teeth, you know, we have a support system that helps one another, and eventually what you give comes back to you. So I would definitely say I'm an agent for change.
So in other words, really, when we're on this path, we've got an option. We can join the human race, which means winners and losers, or we could join humankind, where we all win.
Absolutely, and that's what I'm all about. Everyone contributing, everyone wins, because that's a concept that can make the world a better place, rather than everyone has their sort of individual selfish interest in whatever they do. That's what we have right now, and I think that's part of the result of the way the world is in its current state. It can be a lot better. So much better.
Instead of loser, we can have winner.
Everyone is a winner.
So if there was one message that you would like to tell your viewers, what would that message be?
I guess I want to thank everyone who's been part of this film. Obviously all the wonderful speakers, all the amazing people worldwide who helped in terms of spreading the message by sharing the link, as well as hosting numerous worldwide screenings. The translators, amazing translators who've been donating all their time to translate the film into more languages, so the message of the film can reach many more. A big thank you, of course, goes out to my family as well as friends, both new and old. You've been an amazing influence in my life. But mainly I would like to thank the people around the world that have greatly benefited from my film. The messages that I've received from them are so uplifting and so beautiful. I want to thank them for inspiring me and reminding me why I do what I do.
Amel Tresnjic, thank you very much for your time.
You're welcome.